It's Friday, the 23rd of July, 2021. Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business Headlines, the business news you need in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. In today's headlines, BHP signs a deal with Tesla as investors plough into local miners who dig up metals used in batteries and electric vehicles. Plus, the ASX hits a new all-time high as investors look beyond COVID. The Prime Minister apologises for the dreadful state of the vaccine rollout. And airlines warn that job losses are close if the lockdowns continue. Our lead story today, BHP has signed a deal with electric vehicle maker Tesla to supply nickel from its mine in Western Australia, signalling a shift in focus for the big Australian. On a red letter day for miners of metals used in electronics and electric vehicles, the share prices of lithium miners Pilbara Minerals, Orocobre and Galaxy Resources all jumped 10% yesterday. And Lynas Rare Earths, the country's largest producer of rare earths, used in electronics, jumped 9%. Metals used in electronics are forecast to be in short supply over the next decade, and companies producing them, particularly outside China, are in demand. The share prices of the four I just mentioned, away from BHP, have risen by between 150% and 425% over the past year. In BHP's case, the company will sell some of the least carbon-intensive nickel in the world for use in batteries in Tesla vehicles and storage systems. It's not huge financially, but it fits into Chief Executive Mike Henry's push to embrace future-facing minerals. And it comes days after media reports suggested BHP was considering selling its oil and gas business, both operations with a big carbon footprint. The deal with Tesla puts BHP in the right company to expand into new technologies that are less carbon intensive. The world is going green, and yesterday was tangible evidence of its impact on corporate Australia. Investors recognise the trend and are pushing share prices of lithium, rare earths and nickel miners, as opposed to oil and gas. It's going to be a whole new world. In overseas news, a once-in-a-millennium flood in China has affected more than 3 million people and killed 33. It isn't unusual for China to have major floods, but increasingly they're being blamed on climate change, which is influencing Beijing. Global giant UBS has launched a portfolio that invests in hedge funds led by women. The Carmen portfolio will pick 10 to 15 funds globally where a woman has the sole or joint discretion over investments. Investing has previously been dominated by men. In fact, it still is. But in more recent years, there's been a push to diversify investing so that it better reflects the world we live in. And life expectancy in the United States fell by 1.5 years last year, a rate not seen since World War II. The figure dropped down to 77.3 years, with life expectancy for Hispanics and Black Americans hit particularly hard. More than 3.3 million Americans died last year, the largest ever, reflecting the COVID pandemic. Locally, the S&P ASX 200 hit a record high yesterday, closing up more than 1% at 7,386 points. The bourse regained all the losses of earlier in the week and more. Despite another surge in cases of community-transmitted COVID-19, investors bought into stocks across the board. The only index to go backwards, ironically, was the healthcare index. Prime Minister Scott Morrison yesterday apologised for the poor rollout of COVID vaccines and said he wants to fast-track pharmacists administering jabs. With his political fortunes wavering in the face of the slow vaccination program, Mr Morrison said the country had turned the corner and now 1 million vaccines were being administered each week. The number of community-transmitted COVID cases in New South Wales yesterday was 124, of which 48 were infectious while in the community. That's 38%, far too high. The lockdown is only having moderate success, though it still needs to run for longer to have a proper impact. In Victoria, the news was much, much better. There were 26 cases announced yesterday, but only 2 or 4% were infectious while in the community. There were 2 cases in South Australia. Airline workers looked like they could lose their jobs, at least temporarily, on the back of the most recent shutdowns. Qantas is operating at less than 40% of its pre-pandemic domestic capacity. Virgin Australia is at 50% of where it was a month ago. Neither Qantas nor Virgin would rule out stand-downs yesterday. So far, Qantas has lost literally billions of dollars during the pandemic, and Virgin early last year went into administration. The competition watchdog is focusing its sights on online marketplaces like eBay, Amazon, Kogan.com and Catch. The COVID pandemic has triggered a surge in online shopping. And the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission yesterday announced an inquiry into people's experiences online. And Coles will drop its Little Shop Collectibles promotion, ending one of the most successful sales campaigns in the group's history. The miniature replicas of grocery items were given away once a certain amount was spent at the cash register. Basically, they don't fit into Coles' sustainability plans because they weren't environmentally friendly. That's the Fear and Greed business headlines for today. Make sure you hit follow so you get it every morning. And if you'd like more detail and more stories, search for our longer daily podcast called Fear and Greed. We also release a daily interview. Today, we're talking to the digital marketer who took his own business from $50 to $50 million in 8 years. I'll be back later with the afternoon market report. I'm Sean Aylmer. Have a great day.